Hello and welcome back to another lesson of the Logos and Letters. My name is Liam and we're going to get stuck into this large paragraph. I mean really it just goes on forever. It's one continuous thought and it's quite big. Now this is going to be hard. He's really pushing the Attic Greek of his day to the limit in this section. Throughout this section, to put it into smooth English, I'm going to do my absolute best, but bear with me if some things seem jolted and out of place. I will put them back into place for you, so bit of patience here. So pantadeta prosti pros antistrefonta legatai. So of relations we have a correlative effect going on, right? What does that mean? Well, if I say half, what does half correlate to? Correlates to double. If I say, here, look, hoyon ho doulos despotu doulos legatai. If I say the slave, what does that correlate to? What does that refer back to? Refers back to or correlates to a master. So if Paul says, I am the slave of Christ, that means that Christ is his master. Okay? Kai ho despotes dulu despotes. So if you're a master of a slave. The same thing goes for an employer. If someone says, I'm an employee of Qantas, I'm an employee of Etihad, I'm an employee of Boeing, that means that there has to be an employer of those companies as well, of whatever company or business that the employee works for. It's a correlative, it refers back. And that sort of relation is either known immediately or it's known later. What that means is that you either know this stuff at the same time or you know it piece by piece. It's not immediately obvious to you, or it's immediately obvious, okay? And our language sometimes helps us find that, and our language sometimes doesn't. But let's continue on. So, pantadeta prosti pros antistrefonta legatai, hoyon hodulos, the slave of the master, the slave is said to be kai ho despotes dulu despotes kai to deplacion hemisios deplacion. So double of the half, it's a double, right? It's not just a double by itself, it's double over half. If someone is holding $400 in their hands and they're really happy and they go, oh, this is double what I was paid last week, then you know what the half is. You know what they were paid last week. It correlates, it refers back to antistrefonta. Let's continue on. So kaito deplacion he misios deplacion kaito he misu deplacion deplaciu he misu. So you're a half of a double. Okay. Kaito maisdon elatonos maisdon. So the greater is of the lesser. Correlates. That's an interesting one to consider. Greater is relates to the lesser. Usually when you're looking at two of the same kind of things, same species of things, we would say that. What do I have a picture that's a good example of this? I don't really have a good picture here, but if you're looking at, say, two trees, you could say the greater tree, and it would correlate to the lesser tree. You could say the I really don't have a good artwork for this. The greater wrestler to the lesser wrestler. It works in pairs, in duels, quite well. But let's continue on. So we're about here. Hosautos te kai epiton alon. So of all the other kinds of examples that you can think of, it goes the same. Plain te patosai, eniote diosai katatein lexin. So this word you may remember from chapter 1. I don't know how long ago you were studying chapter 1, but patosai relates to the form of the words and how they change for paronyms. So grammar changes its N to create the paronym grammarian. You can have war, W-A-R, can change its end to warrior, all right, and have the paronym warrior, so on and so forth. And he's mentioning this again, this form thing. So except in form, sometimes, sometimes it will differ, diosai, according to language. He's going to give us some examples here. That's actually quite a critical point. So up here, did you notice how the words don't really suggest the correlative? So master, there's nothing in the word master itself that says there is a slave. Okay, the words are so distinct, are they not? And the same goes for half and double and all these sorts of things that we looked at. But now we're going to have a look at how language does help, does suggest that there is a correlative, and this is where it gets rough. Hey, episteme, epistetu legetai, episteme, kaito episteton, episteme, episteton. I hate this. I've translated this myself twice. I've read it over and over a few times, and every time it makes me nervous. It makes me nervous. So we're going to do this together, all right? Let me get the red pen out. I mean business. All right. Hey, episteme. That's knowledge, yeah? Of something known, epistetu, right? The knowledge of what's known is said to be episteme, knowledge. Kaito episteton, what the knowable or the known, by knowledge is known. Oh, got there. I got there. I'm going to try to say this real smoothly and quickly for us, okay? Knowledge. I hate this. Episteme, epistetu. The knowledge is of the knowable, is said of the knowable. Knowledge. Kaito episteton, episteme. And the knowable by the knowledge is known. Kai he aesthesis. So aesthesis is perception or sense. Either one. Like both are synonyms, right? They mean the same. Really mean the same things. I'm going to say perception here. So kai he aesthesis. The perception, okay, of the aesthetu, the thing perceived or the perceivable, is perception. Kai he kaito aestheton, the perceivable by perception is perceived. Let's go. So men alla eniote doxai. So sometimes it shows the correlative. It shows what it refers back to, does it not? So you can see in his Greek language, he's showing you how these words suggest each other and how they play off each other and how they show the correlation and they show this relationship that exists in the universe that we enjoy and live in. In English, it's not always the same case, but with the translations I gave, knowledge, knowable, known, perception, perceivable, perceived, it does. Does it always share smoothly between two languages? Of course not. But the point remains the same and understandable, that indeed our language does sometimes change its form, sometimes, to show that it differs, okay, according to language. And sometimes, like up here, it doesn't. All right, so that's just a grammatical, lexical sort of point to make. So if you do understand the correlative like instantly, it's usually because your language is helping you do so, helping you connect the dots, consciously or unconsciously. And if you don't immediately understand the correlative, it's probably because your language isn't helping you at all to understand that correlation. Ian me o kaios pros ho legatai apo dothe ala dia marte ho apodidus. Okay, so not unless we make a really fitting, we render or we give some really fitting word to indicate that. Okay, so for example, hoyon to pteron ian apodothe ornithos. So pteron, wing, right? Like pterodactyl, finger wing, which is sort of what it means. Hoyon to pteron. So if you think of a wing, all right? Boom, wing, okay? Wing. And then he says, there's too much red here, one sec. Then he says, so he's got wing there, not unless someone, ian apodothe, the wing is given of the bird, ornithos, right? So the wing of the bird, okay? The wing of the bird. And you might think wing correlates to bird, okay? And you wipe your hands of that, easy, okay? So wing of the bird. But bear with me here and bear with him, because we're going uk antistrefai ornis pteru. But the bird actually doesn't correlate to the wing. So master and slave do correlate. This could be a slave, and the master said, hey, go out there and hunt me a big old owl. Go get me an owl. And the slave goes, yes, master. Grabs his single arrow and bow. He's so confident. Goes out to this precipice, this summit, and finds himself an owl. And he thinks to himself, yeah, wing correlates to bird. But no, it doesn't. It doesn't. I swear I have artworks of animals down here. Birds, birds, birds. Bingo. Look at this. So this is Botany Bay. This is an artwork made in Botany Bay when the British arrived. So look at that. We've got an example of how wing doesn't correlate to bird, because wing can also be a part of insects. Right? So we've got, and so if you list them out, you've got things like moths, dragonflies, bees, wasps, flies. What else has got wings? There's heaps. There's so many things. Birds, of course. There's got to be more. There's got to be more. Bats. What else? What else? Does something have wings but can't really use it? I don't know. I'll come back to it. But my point stands firm that wing cannot correlate to bird because it's shared with too many other things. But a slave does correlate to master, because that's just a two-way relationship. But it's not a two-way relationship of bird and wing. Alright? Ukanti strefai ornis pteru. Ugar okaios to proton abo dedotai pteron ornithos. Alright, so not unless first a more fitting relationship is given of bird is of the wing. Okay, you could say a bird is a winged animal, and that's proper. Okay, you can say winged. It's in the nature of birds to have wings. Okay, winged correlate to bird in a way. Yep, that's more fitting. Okay, It correlates to more, of course, but still, it still makes sense. They're still related. It's like a inseparable part of being a bird is having a wing. Even if the wing has mutated into what we see with penguins, or if they're useless now as what we see in some other species of birds, such as where's that New Zealand bird that I just saw before? It's down here somewhere. Yeah, I used to know the name of this bird, but I can't remember it now. It's useless, this wing now, so but it still has a wing. Now you might think the moa from New Zealand would be a good example of a bird that doesn't have a wing. Was it the moa? There was a bird from New Zealand that had completely lost its wings. Of course, every rule has an exception, but before it lost its wing, guess what it had? It had a wing, right? So sure, it lost its wing, and it was. Some could say that it was becoming something else. Okay, I'm not going to explore that argument, but it just goes to show that we expected a wing from it. It did have a wing at some point, and it is a bird. It fits every other part of a bird. So so you can say a bird is a winged animal, and winged, saying winged, correlates more to what a bird means. All right, if you just said wing, that doesn't correlate to a bird or any other thing that's winged, because we can also say wing of a is the same as a flank of an army. Okay, I should start typing more, but wing can be a flank. A wing can also be a part of a hospital, can it not? All right, hospital wings. I don't know if anyone else is from a background where your language doesn't say that, but in a lot of languages they do. They say wing is a part of a hospital or a massive, any sort of massive complex, or the flank of an army. So winged is better. It means like having a wing, okay? Because that correlates better. I'm going to leave it there because we've covered so much. But I hope you can see how in this course, this education, which goes on for a long time, we're not going to do all 812 pages because a few hundred of these pages are about the history and the development of animals, like the later part. I'm gonna swap those pages with more of the difficult and complex and philosophical texts that he wrote. So it's just going to be all the relevant, up-to-date, important stuff for today. Everything related to logic and philosophy, metaphysics, ethics, virtue, poetry, rhetoric. I'm going to cover all of that stuff because it's still in use today. It's still true today. But all the science stuff that he learnt won't be in this course. It'll be in a different course. I'll still read his stuff, but I'm not going to put it in this series. But as I was saying before, you can see how he does not skip or spare any education in precision with language. Precision with language. Now, I don't want to seem like a downer, but it does seem like precision with language is falling off a little bit of a cliff these days. It's not valued as highly. So I think it's even more important that I spend time with these sorts of things, just because to the few people who watch this course, I don't know, maybe 20 years in the future, there are a lot of people watching this course. But if I can do my bit to restore some precision to language, then, you know, I can go to sleep for that long sleep in a blessed and peaceful way. So, of the winged. So, if you're learning Greek as well, hats off to you, and please don't fret if you find it hard to translate sentences like these. All right, they are beautiful sentences for sure, and but they are pushing Greek to its limits in a sense. So I'm going to leave that there. Thank you so much for your time, and I will, as always, si semper fortis in opere tuo. I'll see you next time.